And I'm Rachel Stewart. Southeast Queensland residents are being urged to prepare their evacuation plans as tropical cyclone Alfred tracks towards the mainland. Lily Knopfling reports. The Category 2 system is expected to bring destructive wind gusts up to 130 kilometres an hour when it crosses the Queensland coast late Thursday into Friday morning. Widespread door-knocking operations are underway across the southeast. The Premier David Crisafulli says those at risk of flooding should have an exit strategy.
There is the prospect that this cyclone could cross the coast in the middle of the night with a high tide, and that is not the time to be making your evacuation plan.
Evacuation centres are opening for those without a safe place to go. More than 500 schools will close tomorrow. Elective surgeries will be cancelled. Redland City Council Mayor Jos Mitchell says evacuation centres will be made available to people who need shelter after the cyclone. But in the meantime, Council is finding temporary accommodation for people during the event.
Redland City Council is working to identify places of refuge for those residents who may not feel safe in their own homes, to provide an alternative place to stay during the event, which is typically probably somewhere between 6 to 12 hours.
Flights in and out of the Gold Coast have been cancelled, with the airport now closed. Acting Gold Coast Mayor Donna Gates says it's shaping up to be the city's worst weather event since 1954.
Every event across the city too has now been cancelled in what was one of our largest event weeks ever. We've seen the cancellation of the surfing, of the golf, of the races, of the AFL, of the NRL, and of course Green Day.
Joint state and federal disaster assistance has been activated for cyclone-affected councils in southeast Queensland. It'll apply to dozens of local government areas and includes support for sandbagging, evacuations, debris removal and emergency road repairs. Federal Emergency Management Minister Jenny McAllister says it'll make it easier for local authorities to focus on recovery.
We also want councils to be confident that as they move quickly to repair essential public infrastructure, they will receive financial support for those repairs.
Households which use solar panels to power their homes are being advised to turn these off ahead of Alfred's arrival. Danny Donald from Energex says solar panels, which are damaged in the cyclone, could create a hazard to the property.
There's the real possibility that the defective solar panels can actually cause a power issue within your house, a dangerous power issue. So we're encouraging people to today, or first thing in the morning, turn them off.
Diabetes Australia Group Chief Executive Justine Kane says people with diabetes need to make sure they can safely store their insulin should there be power outages as a result of Tropical Cyclone Alfred.
Cold storage is an important part of insulin management and keeping the insulin able to be used. So it's important that it's in a fridge or the fridge is working, and then move it to an esky if your power goes out.
Emergency services say now is the time for northern New South Wales residents to prepare before the worst of the wild weather hits. More than 230 schools across the state have been shut for the remainder of the week. SES Richmond District Commander Superintendent Scott Tanner says residents need to be on high alert.
Communities around High Lismore, so the CBD, the north and south of Lismore, they will be considered as high risk. Then the risk for the cold surge and the strong winds along the coast.
To Queensland's weather, scattered to widespread showers in the southeast with the chance of a thunderstorm over the Gold Coast. Mostly sunny in the southwest, thunderstorms in the northwest and northern interior. Looking ahead in the southeast, cloudy, very high chance of rain, cyclonic conditions expected tomorrow. Destructive wind gusts exceeding 130 kilometres per hour possible depending on the movement of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Brisbane between 22 to 26 degrees, the Gold Coast 22 to 26, Sunshine Coast top of 29, Ipswich top of 29.
Craig and Loretta.
Every question, every answer.
We'll very happily keep on giving information through the ABC ABC. Thank you.
When you need to know the latest on Cyclone Alfred, we have you covered.
Breakfast tomorrow morning from 5 on 612 ABC Radio Brisbane. On 612 ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland, this is Cyclone coverage. Tell us what's happening where you are. Call 1300 222 612.
Or you can text me 0467 922 612 with any questions or comments you have. Let us know what things are looking like in your part of the world as Cyclone Alfred starts to make its presence felt. The cyclone warning continuing for areas between Double Island Point right down to, but not including, Grafton. We'll have all the latest information in this half hour that you need to keep safe. Let's start though with the roads.
612 ABC Radio Brisbane. Traffic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ellen. We've had a tree down, we've had some power lines down already this afternoon. The good news is the power lines have been cleared around Brisbane. That was at Mount Cootha, so Samuel Griffiths Drive reopened there between Simpsons Road and Burwood Terrace. Still got a tree down at Paddington, Maroubra Street and Berry Street. A breakdown at Belmont, delays of Ezo on the Gateway northbound before Old Cleve Road. That should be just about gone. The current of traffic lights at Wollongabba, Annerley Road and Park Road, and also a 3-vehicle crash at Tarragindi Toohey Road near Marshall Road, some minor northbound delays. Please take it easy on the roads around the southeast and southern Queensland. We do have a single vehicle rollover this afternoon. It's been a small truck. Heavy haulage has been removing that at Broccoli. It's also affected a power pole which has been knocked down and plenty of debris. Ipswich Motorway outbound, right lane before Grenard Road. Traffic back to Fairfield Road, you're on Pilly. Ipswich Road is back to Bodenson Road and Maruka, and heavy haulage, as I say, removing that truck. The crews will remain on site for that infrastructure damage clean-up as well. Now, around the Gold Coast at the moment, minimal, no crashes or breakdowns, thankfully. The M1 southbound has been heavy through Burleigh and Smith Street westbound from Parklands Drive right through the M1, and heavy on Brisbane Road through Rundle and around Pine Ridge Road and Rundle Drive. Seawall Drive is closed at Muriel Hedgeland Drive and Main Beach, so police on site doing point duty and directed traffic. And around the Sunshine Coast at the moment, we've got a crash at Bridgian Springs, Emu Mountain Road and Bridgian Springs Drive. No delays there, the crew's getting that cleared. The rest of the Sunshine Coast, just some minor delays on Clown Road around Little Mountain at the moment for the inbound run, and no problems reported around Gympie, Maryborough and the Wide Bay region, also through Bundaberg and Toowoomba. Pretty light conditions overall. I'm Brad from ATN, that's the latest traffic. More details at 4:30 on 612 ABC Brisbane and ABC Local Radio Queensland.
And Brad, just checking with you, there are people texting in saying, will I be right to drive tomorrow morning? Will I be right to drive tomorrow afternoon? I'm standing here holding a piece of paper from the Bureau predicting damaging wind gusts of up to 120 kilometres an hour developing along the southeast Queensland, northeastern New South Wales coast and island communities, and exposed coastal locations. Destructive winds could top 155 kilometres an hour. We don't know what roads will be open or shut. Bridges could easily be closed, even major ones. What's your best advice?
Yeah, good point, Ellen. I think really the best advice is don't be on the roads whatsoever, in particular tomorrow, of course, even into Friday to engage what's happening. We've already had some power lines down this afternoon, a tree down as well, and there's minimal, I've got to say there's been minimal wind action today, even compared to other days. It's been quite strong other days as well, so it's very unpredictable, it's very unforeseen. It's all a bit new to us here in the southeast, but I think the best bet is please do everything you need to do this afternoon, and please try and be as patient as possible. I know it's a real anxiety thing for everyone at the moment, and I think try and do what you can today, get what you need done, and just be at home completely tomorrow. Please be off the road, safety wise. It just doesn't take much, so I really plead with everyone to be safe, just be off the roads whatsoever tomorrow.
That's right. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate that, Brad. Talk to you in the next 20 minutes or so. That's great advice. We've already heard the Mayor of the Gold Coast say very directly, if you're living in the Gold Coast local area, go home, get home by 6 o'clock tonight and stay there, and you will know whether your local government area is in the firing line depending on how close to the coast you are. But that's great advice. 10 minutes past 4, we're going to update you now on the latest from the Premier.
ABC Radio Emergency Information.
Well, our region is starting to close down as we broadcast today across Brisbane, Logan, Ipswich, the Golden Sunshine Coasts out to Toowoomba and Wide Bay. The Premier is urging people to make their final preparations for Tropical Cyclone Alfred. I know you want to hear the latest about where that cyclone is right now, and we will be crossing to the Bureau in a few minutes. But here is what the Premier has to say should be your priorities to understand what is going on right now. Schools have closed. There'll be no school tomorrow or Friday. Supermarkets will remain open at this stage. All public transport will cease tonight, but stay up to date because if the winds get too strong, public transport services may well be cancelled later today, the Premier says. As you just heard Brad say there, don't assume all roads will be open. They may not, and bridges in particular may be closed. The Gold Coast Airport has closed. Right now, it closed 11 minutes ago. Check with your airline if you're due to fly in or out of Brisbane in the coming days. Elective surgeries are cancelled for Thursday and Friday.
One thing is for certain, and that is that there will be a cyclone across the coast. We're now into the phase where it's hours rather than days, but you've still got time. We are now moving into the second phase, and that's that damaging and destructive winds. And Queenslanders will increasingly start to see that overnight and into tomorrow. And then it'll move into the third phase. And I really want Queenslanders to understand how important that is. And that third phase is that significant rain, that major and moderate flooding that will come from it. And it is important that people are ready for that third phase long after those destructive winds disappear and beyond into the weekend.
That's a very clear message that what is a huge cyclone event, which is just a very loud wind and very heavy rain, will turn into a flood event. That will be the next phase of what we're dealing with all the way through to the weekend. The key question being asked is who should evacuate and who should shelter in place. We're going to hear in this quarter hour from police, council workers, SES volunteers who are going door to door in what they're calling storm tide zones, asking people to evacuate. Nursing homes and aged care centres in low-lying areas are being put on notice. If you don't know whether you're in an area that often floods, if you don't know whether you should be evacuating, the Premier has suggested that you go to disaster.qld.gov.au. There you will find detailed council flood maps for all affected areas. Your council has mapped the flood threat for your home. It doesn't matter where you are in the listening area. 4 million of us are potentially affected, but you can look up on disaster.qld.gov.au your street, your property, and those maps, we are told, are being updated all the time.
Large-scale door-knocking operations are underway, and I want to thank the way that people have particularly assisted vulnerable Queenslanders, people, those in nursing homes, in aged care. We've pre-deployed health services into many of those areas, as well as power generation. We continue to work and offer those people who are sleeping rough the opportunity to also get out of harm's way. And we continue to move people out of those zones.
There you are, that is the Premier. Be assured state and federal officials are planning for rescues and repairs even now. The Premier stood alongside the Prime Minister this morning and indicated what they had in place to deal with mopping up and rescues in the days to follow.
Rescue vessels have been deployed to places like the Gold Coast and the Redlands and beyond. Brisbane, we have rescue assets positioned along the river. 180 swift water rescue personnel right here in the impacted area. Aircraft, including helicopters with winch capabilities, are on standby. The ADF resources are now also ready to respond, and the ADF's response, quite frankly, has been excellent.
The Commonwealth is also pre-positioning heavy lift helicopters from our National Aerial Firefighting Fleet. Sikorsky S-61 is being deployed to Coffs Harbour. The UH-60 Black Hawk will be pre-positioned in Bundaberg in coming days.
We have 1,000 Ergon energy crews ready to respond once the system goes through, and partnering with that, we have some private contractors who will work with them to clear the debris so they can reconnect the power lines.
4:15, you've been listening to the Premier with all the latest advice. Now, right through the cyclone, we'll be bringing you at the start of each hour updates about the warnings in place, about power outages in your area, all the information you need we will shoehorn into the front of the area. That you can tune in all the time. But why we're doing that is, in coming days, if you need to preserve batteries on your phone or your radio, you can just turn on that radio, turn on the phone at the top of each hour for key information. On ABC Radio, we'll be right with you through all of this. We're your dedicated emergency broadcaster. We're in for a tough couple of days, but we will get through.